I never thought I would have to install a security system on a 10 by 12 generator building in my own backyard. But here, I was in Phoenix, Arizona, watching the installation crew finish up the cameras and motion sensors like I was protecting Fort Knox instead of a Generac generator. My name is Peter Novak, and I had lived in the Saguaro Heights community for 3 years without any major issues, until Patricia Henderson became the HOA president 6 months ago. She was the textbook definition of someone who peaked in high school and spent the rest of her life trying to recapture that sense of power by micromanaging everyone around her. At 52 years old, with her signature blonde bob haircut and perpetual scowl, Patricia had made it her personal mission to ensure that every single rule in our HOA handbook was followed to the letter, and when the rules didn't exist, she simply made them up. The generator situation started innocently enough. Arizona summers are brutal, and with the power grid becoming increasingly unreliable during peak heat periods, I decided to invest in a backup generator. I did everything by the book. I submitted my architectural modification request to the HOA, including detailed plans showing where the generator would be placed, what the building would look like, and even color samples to ensure it matched my house. The building itself was going to be a small structure that would house the generator and provide sound dampening, because the last thing I wanted was to be that neighbor whose generator sounded like a helicopter landing in the backyard. The approval came through after 2 months of back and forth. I had to change the paint color 3 times, adjust the placement twice, and provide additional landscaping to screen it from the street view, even though you could not see my backyard from the street at all. But I complied with every request because I needed that generator. My wife Sarah worked from home as a medical transcriptionist, and losing power meant losing income for us. Construction finished in late March, just before the real heat set in. The building looked great, matching my house perfectly with its tan stucco exterior and brown trim. The generator itself was a beauty, a 22-kilowatt unit that could power our entire house during an outage. I had a licensed electrician handle all the wiring, and the whole setup passed inspection from both the city and our insurance company. Then, Patricia started showing up. The first time, I was in the backyard testing the generator on a Saturday morning. She let herself through my side gate without knocking or calling ahead. I turned around to see her standing there with her phone out, taking pictures. "Excuse me, Patricia, can I help you?" I asked, shutting off the generator. "This is too loud," she announced. "The noise ordinance clearly states that you cannot create excessive noise that disturbs your neighbors. It's 10 in the morning on a Saturday, well within allowable hours for noise. Plus, I'm just doing the weekly test cycle. It runs for 15 minutes once a week to make sure everything works properly." She pursed her lips. "I'll be checking the decibel levels. This may violate community standards." It's within the manufacturer's specifications, and I chose this model specifically because it's one of the quietest on the market. The building itself has sound dampening insulation. "We'll see," she said, taking a few more pictures before walking back through my gate. The second incident happened 2 weeks later. I came home from work to find Patricia in my backyard again, this time with a tape measure, measuring the distance from the generator building to my property line. "Patricia, you need to stop coming into my yard without permission," I said firmly. "This is private property. As HOA president, I have the right to inspect properties for compliance," she replied without looking up from her measurements. "No, you don't. The HOA has the right to inspect common areas. My backyard is not a common area. If you want to inspect something, you need to provide written notice and schedule an appointment." "I'll do what I need to do to ensure community standards are maintained," she said, jotting down numbers in her notebook. "This structure appears to be 7 inches closer to the property line than your approved plans indicated. It's exactly where the plans showed. I have the survey markers to prove it." She gave me a tight smile. "I'll be reviewing this matter with the board." 3 days later, I received a violation notice in the mail. According to Patricia, my generator building was not in compliance with the approved plans, and I had 30 days to remedy the situation or face daily fines of $100. I immediately pulled out my plans and the survey from the installation. Everything was exactly where it should be. I called an independent surveyor who came out and confirmed that the building was positioned precisely according to the approved specifications. I submitted all this documentation to the HOA board, requesting that the violation be dismissed and that Patricia be prohibited from entering my property without permission. The next board meeting was scheduled for 2 weeks away, so I had to wait. During those 2 weeks, I caught Patricia in my backyard 3 more times. The third time I was not home, but my neighbor Frank called me at work to let me know she was back there. The fourth time, Sarah was home and confronted her, telling her she was not welcome on our property. Patricia claimed she had every right to be there and that we were being obstructive and uncooperative. The fifth time, I had finally had enough. I called a locksmith and had locks installed on both my side gates. Then I called the security company. "I need cameras and an alarm system for a small outbuilding," I told the representative. "Like a shed?" he asked. "It's a generator building, but yes, similar size. I need motion sensors, cameras with night vision, and I want everything connected to your monitoring service. If anyone enters that building, I want you to call the police immediately." "That's pretty serious security for a generator. Have you had theft problems?" "Not theft, trespassing. I have someone who keeps coming onto my property without permission, and I need documentation and immediate response if it happens again." The security company sent out a team the next day. They installed 2 cameras, one covering the exterior of the building and the walkway leading to it, and another inside the building itself. Motion sensors were placed on the door, and they installed a professional-grade lock on the building entrance. The system was connected to the company's 24/7 monitoring center, and I specifically requested that any alerts be treated as a break-in and reported to police immediately. "Just to be clear," the installation supervisor said, "if someone triggers this system, we're calling the cops right away." "Are you sure you want it that hot?" "Absolutely. The only person who should ever be entering that building is me, my wife, or a technician I've specifically authorized. Anyone else is trespassing and breaking and entering." "You got it. Everything will be uploaded to the cloud in real time, so even if someone destroys the cameras, we'll have the footage." The system went live on a Thursday afternoon. The board meeting where my violation dispute would be heard was scheduled for the following Tuesday. I honestly thought the cameras and alarm system might be overkill, but I wanted documentation of Patricia's continued trespassing to present to the board. I did not have to wait long. Saturday morning at 8:15, I was in the kitchen making coffee when my phone started buzzing. It was the security company. "Mr. Novak, this is Alert 1 Security. We have a breach alert at your property. Motion sensors and cameras show an individual has entered your generator building. Police have been dispatched. Are you at home?" "Yes, I'm here. I'm heading out back now." I ran through the house and out the back door. As I rounded the corner toward the generator building, I saw Patricia emerging from it, holding what looked like papers or documents. She startled when she saw me. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted. I'm conducting an HOA inspection, she said, but her face had gone pale. You broke into my building. The police are on their way. I did no such thing. The door was open. The door was locked. There's an alarm system. You triggered it. This is ridiculous. I'm the HOA president. I have every right to. You have no right to break into my property. How did you even get into my backyard? The gates are locked. She didn't answer that question. Instead, she tried to walk past me toward the side gate, but I blocked her path. You need to wait for the police, I said. I will not. This is harassment. No, this is trespassing and breaking and entering. You're not leaving. We stood there in an awkward standoff for about 4 minutes until I heard voices coming from inside my house. Sarah had let the police in through the front door. 2 Phoenix police officers came through the back door and into the yard. I recognized one of them, Officer Martinez, from a neighborhood watch meeting. Mr. Novak, we got a call about a break-in. Yes, officer. This is Patricia Henderson. She's the president of our HOA. She broke into that building which houses my generator. I have the whole thing on camera. The security company can confirm. I did not break in, Patricia insisted. I'm conducting official HOA business. I have the authority to inspect properties in this community. Madam, is this your property? Officer Martinez asked. No, but as HOA president, did Mr. Novak give you permission to be here? I don't need his permission. The HOA bylaws clearly state, Madam, I'm going to need to see some identification. And Mr. Novak, can you show us this building and explain what happened? I walked them over to the generator building. The door was ajar, and I could see scratches around the lock where Patricia had apparently used something to force it open. This building was locked. I have a security system installed with cameras and motion sensors. The system alerted my security company who called you. I have video of everything. The door was unlocked when I got here, Patricia claimed. Officer Martinez examined the lock. These are fresh pry marks. Did you pry this door open, madam? I absolutely did not. It was already open. Okay. Mr. Novak, can you access that security footage? I pulled out my phone and opened the security app. The video was crystal clear. It showed Patricia approaching the building at 8:13 a.m. She looked around, checking to see if anyone was watching, then pulled something from her purse. The timestamp showed her working on the lock for about 30 seconds before the door opened. The interior camera caught her entering the building and looking around, examining the generator and appearing to take photos with her phone. Officer Martinez watched the video twice. Madam, this video clearly shows you forcing entry into this building. The door was locked, and you used what appears to be a tool to open it. That's not what happened. The video must be edited or fake. The footage comes directly from my security company, I said. It's time-stamped and uploaded in real time to their servers. It can't be edited. The other officer, whose name tag Reed Morrison, said, Madam, how did you get into the backyard? Did you climb the fence? Patricia's face was getting redder. I don't have to answer these questions. This is private community business. This is criminal trespassing at minimum, madam. You need to answer our questions. I pulled up another camera view, this one from my house's exterior security system that covered the side gate. The footage showed Patricia using a key to unlock the gate and enter the backyard. Where did you get a key to my gate? I asked. She didn't answer. Officer Martinez said, Mr. Novak, did you give her a key? Absolutely not. I just had these locks installed specifically to keep her out. She's been trespassing on my property repeatedly over the past month. Is that true, madam? Officer Morrison asked. I've been conducting routine inspections, as is my duty as HOA president. After being told you're not welcome on the property. The HOA has rights that supersede individual property rights in certain circumstances. Officer Martinez shook his head. That's not how it works, madam. HOA authority doesn't give you the right to trespass or break into someone's private property. I'm going to need you to put your hands behind your back. Excuse me. You're not seriously arresting me, madam. You've committed breaking and entering, criminal trespassing, and based on that key situation, possibly burglary. You're being detained. This is outrageous. I'm calling my lawyer. You can do that from the station. Please put your hands behind your back. Patricia actually tried to walk away at that point, but Officer Morrison stepped in her path. After a tense moment, she complied and Officer Martinez handcuffed her. They read her rights right there in my backyard, and it was one of the most surreal experiences of my life. Mr. Novak, we're going to need copies of all that security footage, Officer Martinez said. And you'll need to come down to the station to file a formal complaint and give a statement. Of course, my security company can provide everything directly to you as well. That would be helpful. What's the company name? I gave them Alert One Security's information, and they called it in to have someone from the company contact the station with the footage. As they were walking Patricia out through my house, she turned and glared at me. You're going to regret this. The HOA is going to make your life hell. Madam, you need to stop talking, Officer Morrison advised her. After they left, Sarah came outside. She had been watching from the kitchen window. Oh my God, Peter, they actually arrested her. She broke into our property on camera. What did she think was going to happen? I don't know, but this is going to cause huge problems with the HOA. Let it. She's been harassing us for months. Maybe this will finally put an end to it. I spent the rest of Saturday morning at the police station giving a formal statement. I explained the entire history of Patricia's harassment, the repeated trespassing incidents, and the violations she had falsely issued against me. The detective taking my statement, Detective Sarah Winters, was thorough and professional. So she's been coming onto your property without permission for over a month? Detective Winters asked. Yes, at least 5 times that I know of, probably more when I was not home. And you told her she was not allowed to be there? Multiple times. My wife told her. My neighbor heard me tell her. I installed locks specifically to keep her out. How do you think she got a key to your new locks? That was a question I had been asking myself. I have no idea. The locksmith who installed them is a reputable company. They wouldn't give out copies. Did you give a key to anyone else? Neighbors, friends, family. Just my wife and I have keys. We have a spare hidden, but it's not somewhere anyone would find it. We found lock-picking tools in Miss Henderson's purse, Detective Winters said. She may have picked your gate lock and made an impression to create a key. Are you serious? Completely. She had a full set of lock picks, which raises this situation to another level. This suggests premeditation and planning. So what happens now? She'll be formally charged. Based on the evidence, we're looking at breaking and entering, criminal trespassing, and possession of burglary tools. The district attorney will review everything and make the final call on charges. With the video evidence, this is a pretty solid case. Will I need to testify? Most likely, if it goes to trial. But with evidence this clear, there's a good chance she'll take a plea deal. I left the police station feeling vindicated but also exhausted. This whole situation had spiraled so far beyond a simple HOA dispute that it felt unreal. Monday morning, I received a call from a man named Robert Chen who identified himself as the vice president of our HOA board. Mr. Novak, I heard about what happened this weekend. I want to apologize on behalf of the board. You know Patricia was arrested? Yes. She called several board members from jail. We bailed her out, but we've called an emergency board meeting for tonight. We need to discuss her position as president. I appreciate the call, Robert. I also want to let you know that your violation notice is being rescinded. I reviewed your documentation and you're clearly in compliance. Patricia had no grounds to issue that violation. Thank you. I tried to tell her that. We've had other complaints about her behavior. Yours isn't the first, but this situation with the arrest has forced us to take action. Would you be willing to attend the board meeting tonight to explain what happened? Absolutely. The emergency HOA board meeting was held at 7 p.m. in the community clubhouse. I arrived to find about 30 other residents already there. Word had spread quickly about Patricia's arrest, and everyone wanted to know what was happening. The board consisted of 5 members. Robert Chen, the vice president, called the meeting to order. Patricia was not present, which Robert explained was at the board's request pending the outcome of the meeting. We've called this emergency session to address serious concerns about conduct by our president, Patricia Henderson, Robert began. This weekend, Miss Henderson was arrested for breaking and entering, criminal trespassing, and possession of burglary tools on the property of Peter Novak. Mr. Novak is here tonight and has agreed to explain the situation. Peter. I stood and gave a detailed account of everything that had happened over the past 2 months. I showed pictures of the violation notice, explained how Patricia had repeatedly trespassed despite being told to stay away, and described the security footage that led to her arrest. Several other residents spoke up with their own stories of Patricia's overreach and harassment. One woman, Margaret Foster, described how Patricia had issued a violation because her mailbox was the wrong shade of black. Another resident, Tom Paulson, explained that Patricia had tried to fine him for parking his own car in his own driveway overnight, claiming it was unsightly. The stories went on and on. It's clear that Miss Henderson has exceeded her authority and engaged in harassment of multiple residents, Robert said after everyone had spoken. The board needs to vote on her removal as president and from the board entirely. I make a motion to remove Patricia Henderson from her position as president and from the board, said board member Linda Garcia. Second, said another board member, James Norton. The vote was unanimous. Patricia was out. We'll need to notify her of the board's decision, Robert said. I'll also be recommending that we review our HOA policies and procedures to ensure something like this doesn't happen again. We're supposed to be maintaining property values and community standards, not harassing homeowners. After the meeting, several residents came up to thank me for standing up to Patricia. Frank, my neighbor, clapped me on the shoulder. Someone needed to put her in her place. She's been out of control since she got elected. I didn't want it to come to this, but she gave me no choice. You did the right thing, man. That woman is unhinged. Over the next few weeks, the legal process moved forward. Patricia was formally charged with breaking and entering, criminal trespassing, and possession of burglary tools. The district attorney's office contacted me to inform me that they were taking the case seriously, especially given the premeditated nature of Patricia's actions. The lock-picking tools are really the kicker here. Assistant District Attorney Michael Torres told me during a phone call. That shows intent and planning. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. She specifically acquired tools to break into your property. What kind of sentence is she looking at? Breaking and entering is a Class 6 felony in Arizona. With her clean record, she'll probably get probation if she pleads guilty. But if she fights it and goes to trial and we convict her, she could face up to 2 years. I just want her to leave me alone. I understand. We'll make sure any plea agreement includes a no-contact provision. She won't be allowed anywhere near you or your property. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for mid-May. I had to take a day off work to attend. The courthouse in downtown Phoenix was busy, and I felt out of place in the formal setting. Patricia was there with her attorney, a sharp-looking man in an expensive suit. She wouldn't look at me. The hearing itself was quick. The prosecutor presented the evidence, including the security footage. Patricia's attorney tried to argue that she believed she had the authority to inspect the property as HOA president, but the judge shut that down immediately. There's no HOA authority that permits breaking and entering private property with lock-picking tools, Judge Ramirez said. This case will proceed to trial unless a plea agreement is reached. Outside the courthouse, Patricia's attorney approached me. "Mr. Novak, my client would like to resolve this matter without going to trial." "I'm listening." "She's willing to plead guilty to criminal trespassing, with the breaking and entering and burglary tools charges dropped. She'll accept probation, pay restitution for your security system, and agree to a no-contact order." "What does the DA say about this? We're negotiating with them now." "I wanted to know if you'd be amenable to this resolution. As long as she stays away from me and my property, I don't care what happens to her." "Fair enough. Thank you for your time." 2 weeks later, I received a call from Ada Torres informing me that Patricia had accepted a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to criminal trespassing and possession of burglary tools, both misdemeanors under the negotiated agreement. The breaking and entering charge was dropped in exchange for the guilty plea. She received 2 years of probation, had to pay $3,000 in restitution to cover my security system, and was ordered to have no contact with me or come within 500 feet of my property. She also has to perform 200 hours of community service, Torres added. "And this conviction will stay on her record permanently." "What about the civil side? Can the HOA still come after me?" "That's outside my jurisdiction, but with her criminal conviction, you'd have a strong case if they try anything." She was convicted of crimes related to her conduct as HOA president. That's pretty damning. The HOA situation resolved itself naturally. With Patricia gone, Robert Chen took over as president, and the board adopted new policies limiting board member authority and creating clear procedures for property inspections. They also issued a formal apology to me and several other residents who had been harassed by Patricia. The violation notice against me was permanently rescinded, and the board even reimbursed me for the cost of having the independent surveyor come out to verify my generator building placement. Life returned to normal over the summer. The generator performed perfectly during several power outages caused by monsoon storms. My security system remained in place, though I downgraded the alarm response to simply notify me rather than automatically calling police. I ran into Patricia once in early August at a grocery store in Scottsdale, well outside our neighborhood. She saw me and immediately turned and walked the other way. The no-contact order was working. In September, I received notice that Patricia and her husband were selling their house and moving out of Saguaro Heights. Several neighbors told me they were moving to Flagstaff to be closer to their daughter. I felt a sense of relief knowing she would be gone completely. The closing came with an interesting twist. Patricia's real estate agent contacted me asking if I would be willing to sign a statement confirming that the HOA dispute was resolved, and that I had no pending claims against Patricia related to the property. Apparently, the buyers had gotten wind of the situation and were concerned about HOA problems in the community. I consulted with a lawyer friend who advised me that signing such a statement could limit my options if any other issues arose, but that it was probably fine given that the criminal case was resolved, and the HOA had made things right. I signed the statement, adding a clause that specified I was confirming only that my individual dispute was resolved and making no representations about the HOA's general stability or Patricia's conduct toward others. The sale went through, and by October, Patricia and her husband were gone. The new family who moved into Patricia's old house were lovely people. Bill and Susan Crawford had 2 young kids and were friendly from day one. Susan actually knocked on my door the second week they lived there to introduce herself and ask about the neighborhood. "We heard there were some HOA problems before we moved in," she said. "Is that something we should be concerned about?" It was one person who had some authority issues. "She's gone now and the current board is reasonable and fair. You shouldn't have any problems." "That's good to hear." The previous owner seemed very particular about everything. "That's a polite way of putting it," I said with a laugh. Life in Saguaro Heights improved dramatically after Patricia's departure. The HOA board under Robert's leadership focused on actual community improvement rather than nitpicking violations. They organized neighborhood events, improved the common areas, and generally made the community a better place to live. In November, about 8 months after the incident, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Patricia, postmarked from Flagstaff. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. The letter was handwritten and surprisingly contrite. Patricia apologized for her behavior, explaining that she had been dealing with some personal issues and had channeled her stress into trying to control the HOA with an iron fist. She acknowledged that she had gone way too far and that her actions were indefensible. She thanked me for not pushing for harsher charges and said she was getting therapy to work on her control issues. I did not respond to the letter, but I appreciated the apology. It provided some closure to the whole bizarre situation. The generator continued to be a blessing throughout the following year. Arizona's power grid had more problems than usual, and having backup power meant we never lost income or comfort during outages. Several neighbors ended up installing their own generators, and I was happy to share my experience and recommend contractors. The security system earned its keep too. About a year after the Patricia incident, it caught a different kind of trespasser. A coyote had somehow gotten into my backyard and was prowling around. The motion sensors alerted me, and I was able to scare it off before it caused any problems. The camera footage was actually pretty cool, and I shared it with the neighborhood watch to remind everyone to keep an eye on their pets. In March, almost exactly 2 years after the generator building was completed, I received another piece of mail from the court system. It was a notice that Patricia had successfully completed her probation. Her case was closed. I felt nothing but relief. Robert Chen stepped down as HOA president that spring, having served for 2 years and wanting to focus on his family. The board elected a new president, Diane Morrison, who had lived in the community for over a decade and had a reputation for fairness and common sense. Under her leadership, the HOA continued to function smoothly. I ran into Robert at a neighborhood barbecue in May. "Thanks for stepping up when Patricia imploded," I said. "You did a good job getting things back on track." "I should have stepped in sooner," Robert replied. "We all saw the signs that she was getting out of control, but none of us wanted to confront her. Your situation forced us to act. Better late than never." True. And honestly, the community is better for it. We learned a lot about what HOAs should and should not do. We revised our bylaws to prevent future abuse of power, so something good came out of it. The whole experience taught me several important lessons about HOAs, property rights, and standing up for yourself when someone oversteps their authority. The most important lesson was to document everything. Without those security cameras, it would have been my word against Patricia's, and who knows how that would have turned out. I also learned that even in positions of minor authority, some people will abuse their power if given the chance. Patricia let being HOA president go to her head and convinced herself that she had far more authority than she actually possessed. The combination of a controlling personality and a little bit of power created a dangerous situation. The legal system worked the way it was supposed to. Patricia broke the law, was caught on camera, and faced consequences for her actions. The fact that she was HOA president did not put her above the law or give her special rights to trespass and break into private property. The police, district attorney, and judge all took the matter seriously and held her accountable. I kept the security system in place, though I eventually downgraded it to a simpler setup without the alarm monitoring service. The cameras remained as a deterrent and for general property security, but I no longer needed the rapid response capability. The system had served its purpose. The generator building stood as a testament to the entire saga. Every time I looked at it, I remembered the months of dealing with Patricia's harassment and the ultimate resolution. It was a reminder that sometimes you have to stand your ground and not back down when someone is clearly in the wrong. Sarah and I celebrated the 2-year anniversary of Patricia's arrest with a quiet dinner at home. We had power during dinner, thanks to an afternoon thunderstorm that knocked out electricity in several neighborhoods, and our generator kept everything running smoothly. You know what's funny? Sarah said over dinner, "That whole nightmare with Patricia ended up being worth it in a weird way. We got this great security system, the HOA reformed its policies, and we never have to worry about power outages." "I would have preferred to skip the nightmare part and just get the benefits," I said. Fair point. But at least it worked out in the end. She was right. Despite the stress, frustration, and genuine fear I had felt when Patricia was actively harassing us, everything had worked out. Patricia was gone, the HOA was functional and reasonable, and we had a fully secured property with reliable backup power. I sometimes wondered what Patricia was doing in Flagstaff. Was she involved in her HOA there? Had she learned her lesson? Or was she terrorizing some new group of homeowners? Based on the apology letter, I hope she had genuinely changed and was living a quieter, less controlling life. The statute of limitations on any civil claims related to Patricia's conduct would run out eventually, and I had no interest in pursuing anything further. The criminal case was resolved, she had paid restitution, and she was out of my life. That was all I wanted. 3 years after the incident, Saguaro Heights had become one of the more sought-after communities in the area. Property values had increased, and the HOA had a reputation for being well-managed and resident-friendly. Several real estate agents specifically mentioned our HOA in listings as a selling point, which was a complete turnaround from the Patricia era. I was sitting on my back patio one evening in early summer, enjoying the weather before it got too hot, when Frank came over with a 6-pack of beer. "Remember when Patricia got arrested right over there?" he said, pointing at the generator building. "How could I forget? Wild times, man. I still can't believe she actually broke into your property with lock picks. Who does that? Someone who thought being HOA president made her untouchable. Well, she learned different. Hey, I've been meaning to ask, do you still have the video footage?" "Yeah, it's backed up on my computer and in the cloud." "Why? You should submit it to one of those HOA horror story channels online. People would eat that up." I laughed. "I've thought about it, but I'd rather just leave the whole thing in the past. Plus, Patricia did apologize and complete her probation. No need to publicly embarrass her more than she already has been. You're a better man than me. I would have put that video on every social media platform the second it happened. Trust me, I was tempted." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking our beers and watching the sunset. The generator building stood quietly in the corner of my yard, its purpose far beyond just housing a backup power source. It represented a battle fought and won, a line drawn and held, and a community that came together to fix a broken system. The next day, I received an unexpected email from a law firm in Phoenix. My heart sank, thinking that somehow Patricia was coming after me with a lawsuit despite the time that had passed. But when I opened the email, it was something completely different. The firm represented several other homeowners in different Phoenix area HOAs who were dealing with similar harassment situations. They had heard about my case through the court records and wanted to know if I would be willing to provide a deposition or statement about my experience for use in their cases. I called the attorney, a woman named Jennifer Walsh, to discuss it. Mr. Novak, we're representing multiple clients who are being harassed by overzealous HOA board members. Your case is one of the few where the HOA president actually faced criminal charges. We'd like to use your experience to establish precedent that this kind of conduct is illegal and has serious consequences. I'm willing to help, but I don't want to testify in multiple trials. I've moved on from all this. We wouldn't need you to testify. Just a written statement and deposition we can use to show that courts take these matters seriously. It would really help our clients. I agreed to provide a statement and sat for a deposition the following week. It felt strange to recount the entire story again after so much time had passed, but if it helped other people dealing with HOA abuse, it was worth the few hours of my time. Jennifer called me a month later with an update. I wanted to let you know that 3 of our cases settled after the HOA attorneys saw your statement and the outcome of your case. They realized they were facing potential criminal liability and backed off. You probably saved our clients months of legal battles. I'm glad I could help. You set an important precedent, Mr. Novak. Before your case, a lot of HOA board members thought they could do whatever they wanted. Now they know there are real consequences. After that call, I felt a sense of completion. The nightmare with Patricia had not only resolved itself, but had also helped protect other homeowners from similar harassment. It gave the whole experience meaning beyond just my personal situation. Life continued peacefully in Saguaro Heights. The HOA, under Diane Morrison's leadership, maintained its reputation for fairness and actually improved the community in meaningful ways. They repaved the streets, upgraded the playground equipment in the common area, and organized regular community events that brought neighbors together. I eventually joined the HOA's Architectural Review Committee, the very committee that had originally approved my generator building. I wanted to help ensure that future homeowners did not face the kind of arbitrary and capricious decision-making that I had dealt with under Patricia. My experience gave me a unique perspective on how to balance maintaining community standards with respecting homeowner rights. The first application I reviewed was for another generator installation. A young couple named Mike and Jennifer wanted to install a whole house generator similar to mine. I made sure their application process was smooth, efficient, and based entirely on reasonable standards rather than personal whims. This was so much easier than I expected, Mike said when I called to tell him his application was approved. I heard HOAs could be nightmares about this kind of thing. They can be, but it doesn't have to be that way. Your application was complete, the generator meets all codes, and you're doing everything right. There's no reason to make it difficult. That became my approach to all applications. If homeowners followed the rules and their modifications were reasonable, I advocated for approval. If there were legitimate concerns, I worked with the homeowners to find solutions rather than just rejecting applications outright. It was common sense, but apparently not that common in many HOAs. 4 years after the incident, I was working in my home office when the power went out. It was a weekday afternoon, and thunderstorms had rolled through unexpectedly. Within seconds, the generator kicked on automatically and my power was restored. I barely noticed the outage. I walked outside to check on the generator building, and everything was running smoothly. The building had weathered 4 Arizona summers and countless storms without any issues. It was exactly what I had envisioned when I first submitted those plans years ago. My phone rang. It was Sarah calling from her office across town. "Did the power go out at home?" she asked. "Yeah, but the generator picked right up. I didn't even lose my internet connection." "Good, it's out all over this area. I might come home early if it's not back soon." "Come on home. We've got power, air conditioning, and I'll make dinner." That evening, several neighbors who had also installed generators after my experience came over for an impromptu cookout. We grilled in my backyard while the rest of the neighborhood sat in the dark, and we shared stories about the wild days of Patricia's reign of terror. "Remember when she tried to fine me because my grass was a quarter-inch too long?" Tom Paulson said, laughing. "She literally came to my door with a ruler." "She told me my house number wasn't properly illuminated," Linda Garcia added. "It was 2 in the afternoon." "The woman was certifiable," Frank said. "Peter did us all a favor by finally stopping her." "I just wanted her to leave me alone," I said. "I never intended to start a revolution." "Sometimes revolutions start because one person finally says enough is enough," Robert Chen observed. He had joined us for dinner along with his wife. "You stood up to a bully and it changed the whole community for the better." As the evening wore on and the power eventually came back on in the neighborhood, I reflected on how much had changed in 4 years. What started as a simple desire to have backup power during outages had turned into a major confrontation with an abusive HOA president, a criminal case, and ultimately a complete reformation of how our HOA operated. The generator building still stood in the corner of my yard, still protected by cameras, still serving its purpose every time the power flickered. But it had become more than just a building to me. It was a symbol of standing up for what was right, of not backing down when someone abused their authority, and of the importance of community members holding their leaders accountable. 5 years after Patricia's arrest, I received one final piece of mail related to the entire situation. It was a letter from Patricia's attorney informing me that her probation period had officially ended 3 years prior, and she was petitioning the court to have her conviction set aside under Arizona's set-aside statute. This would not erase the conviction, but would change its status and potentially help her with employment and other opportunities. The letter asked if I had any objection to the set-aside. I thought about it for a few days. Patricia had completed all the terms of her probation, paid the restitution, and stayed away from me completely. The apology letter she had sent years ago seemed genuine. She had faced consequences for her actions and appeared to have learned from the experience. I wrote a letter to the court stating that I had no objection to the set-aside. Patricia had paid her debt to society, and I saw no reason to stand in the way of her moving forward with her life. The court granted the set-aside a few weeks later. That felt like the true end of the saga. Patricia had gone through the legal system, faced real consequences, completed her obligations, and was now moving on. I had stood up for my rights, protected my property, and helped reform an abusive HOA system. Everyone involved had learned lessons, and life moved forward. The generator building remains a fixture in my backyard to this day. The generator itself has performed flawlessly, kicking on during dozens of power outages and keeping our home running smoothly. The security cameras are still in place, though they have not caught anything more dramatic than the occasional wandering coyote or ambitious raccoon. Saguaro Heights continues to be a great place to live. The HOA functions smoothly under competent leadership that respects homeowner rights while maintaining reasonable community standards. Property values have continued to rise, and the neighborhood has a strong sense of community that was forged in part through surviving the Patricia era together. I sometimes drive past the house where Patricia used to live. Bill and Susan Crawford turned it into a warm, welcoming home, nothing like the fortress of rules and regulations it seemed to be under Patricia's ownership. Their kids play in the yard, and they actually use their driveway to park their cars without fear of violation notices. The whole experience taught me that sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do. Confronting Patricia and ultimately having her arrested was not something I wanted to do, but it was necessary. She was not going to stop on her own, and she needed to face real consequences for her actions. It also taught me the value of documentation. Those security cameras provided irrefutable evidence of what happened. Without them, the situation might have devolved into a he said, she said argument that went nowhere. The clear video evidence made the case open and shut. Most importantly, I learned that abuse of power, even in something as mundane as an HOA, needs to be confronted. Patricia was not a government official or corporate executive, just the president of a small neighborhood HOA. But she wielded her limited power like a weapon, and if left unchecked, she would have continued to make life miserable for everyone in Saguaro Heights. By standing up to her, documenting her illegal conduct, and following through with criminal charges, I helped establish that HOA board members are not above the law. They cannot trespass, break into private property, or harass homeowners without facing consequences. That precedent helped other homeowners in their battles with abusive HOAs. Today, when I look at that generator building, I feel pride. Not just because it represents energy independence and smart preparation for Arizona's unreliable power grid, but because it represents a stand I took against injustice in my own backyard. It reminds me that ordinary people can make a difference when they refuse to be bullied and are willing to fight for their rights. The generator hums to life every week during its automatic test cycle, a reliable presence in my yard. The security cameras keep watch, though these days they are just there for general property protection. The whole system works exactly as intended, providing both practical benefits and peace of mind. Patricia's attempt to assert dominance over my property and my life failed spectacularly. Instead of intimidating me into submission, she awakened a determination to protect my home and family. Instead of flexing her authority, she lost it completely. Instead of making an example of me to other homeowners, she became the cautionary tale. The alarm company footage that went straight to the district attorney's office became the centerpiece of a criminal case that ended Patricia's HOA career and resulted in her conviction. That footage showed clearly and indisputably that she had broken the law, removing any ambiguity from the situation. In the end, justice was served, the community recovered and improved, and I got to keep my generator building exactly as I had planned it from the beginning. The legal system worked, the HOA reformed itself, and life returned to normal in Saguaro Heights. Sometimes, I wonder what would have happened if I had not installed those security cameras, if I had just let Patricia continue her harassment, if I had backed down when she issued that bogus violation notice. Would she still be terrorizing the neighborhood? Would other homeowners have suffered under her authoritarian rule? I am glad I will never have to know the answers to those questions. The cameras were installed, the footage captured her crimes, and she faced consequences. That is how it should work in a just society, whether the criminal is a violent offender or just an overzealous HOA president who thought she was untouchable. The generator building stands as a monument to that principle. It is just a small stucco structure in a Phoenix backyard, but it represents something much larger. The idea that property rights matter, that abuse of power will not be tolerated, and that ordinary citizens can stand up to bullies and win. Every time that generator kicks on during a power outage, it is not just keeping my lights on. It is a reminder that I fought for my rights and won, that I protected my home and family, and that sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do. The story of Patricia Henderson and the generator building became neighborhood legend in Saguaro Heights. New residents hear about it during welcome meetings, and it serves as a reminder of both what can go wrong with HOAs and how a community can come together to fix problems when they arise. Life moves forward, but the lessons remain. Stand up for your rights. Document everything. Do not let bullies intimidate you into submission. Follow the law and expect others to do the same regardless of their position or authority. These are simple principles, but they made all the difference when I needed them most. The generator building will likely outlast my time in this house. Future owners will benefit from it during power outages, probably without ever knowing the full story of why it exists, and how it came to be not just a functional structure, but a symbol of resistance against HOA tyranny. And somewhere in Flagstaff, Patricia Henderson hopefully learned her lessons and is living a better life, one where she respects other people's boundaries and understands that authority comes with limits and responsibilities. I genuinely hope she found peace and grew from the experience. As for me, I continue to live happily in Saguaro Heights, serving on the Architectural Review Committee and helping ensure that no future HOA president can abuse their power the way Patricia did. The generator runs smoothly, the security cameras keep watch, and life goes on in the Arizona sun. The whole saga remains one of the most stressful but ultimately satisfying experiences of my life. Standing up to Patricia was not easy, and there were times I questioned whether it was worth the fight. But looking back now with years of perspective, I know without a doubt that it was absolutely worth it. Justice prevailed, the community healed, and the generator building stands as testament to what happens when ordinary people refuse to accept abuse and stand firm in defense of their rights. That small structure in my backyard carries more meaning than most buildings 10 times its size, and I will always be proud of what it represents.